Well, Donald Trump's tariff war seems to be escalating, with the White House now hitting out at the judges, slamming blatantly wrong decision by the court and calling tariffs ruling an overreach. Now they have filed an emergency motion where the White House says that they want the Supreme Court now to intervene. The White House, which has now blasted a federal court's decision to block many of President Donald Trump's sweeping tariffs, marking it as a major setback to his trade strategy. Since returning to the presidency in January this year, Donald Trump has moved to redraw his country's trade ties with the world while using tariffs as a negotiating tactic to pressure foreign governments to the table. But this stop-start rollout of levies that have been impacting both friends and foe has roiled markets and has snarled steel supply as well. And it seems that when it comes to his own courts as well, who are now rejecting as far as when it comes to the federal court's decision to block many of Donald Trump's sweeping tariffs that have now marked as a major setback to his trade strategy.
No role here. There is a troubling and dangerous trend of unelected judges inserting themselves into the presidential decision-making process. America cannot function if President Trump, or any other president for that matter, has their sensitive diplomatic or trade negotiations railroaded by activist judges. President Trump is in the process of rebalancing America's trading agreements with the entire world, bringing tens of billions of dollars in tariff revenues to our country, and finally ending the United States of America from being ripped off. These judges are threatening to undermine the credibility of the United States on the world stage. The administration has already filed an emergency motion for a stay pending appeal and an immediate administrative stay to strike down this egregious decision. But ultimately, the Supreme Court must put an end to this for the sake of our Constitution and our country.
On tariffs, Kevin Hassett earlier this morning, he brushed off a legal ruling and called it a hiccup. And he said that trade deal negotiations would continue. Why would other countries continue these trade deal negotiations given the ruling?
Because other countries around the world have faith in the negotiator-in-chief, President.
Well, let's get in a word with Rishabh now. Rishabh, we have seen the back and forth, the announcements that continue to be made on part of Donald Trump, saying that the world has ripped off America, but not under his watch. However, how it is going to take place as far as when it comes to his announcements are concerned, when it comes to his own courts, his own judges are now calling out as his decisions as an overreach.
Well, Amita, what we're given to understand first that there was a three-judge bench that decided to put a hold on the sweeping tariffs that were put in place by Donald Trump since the Liberation Day tariff that we have been talking. Now, 11-judge bench has given a breather to Donald Trump, and very categorically, the Donald Trump administration is going after the three-judge bench that in Washington that had stopped the tariff imposed by Donald Trump administration. Now it remains to be seen how things unfold. Remember, this court verdict from the 11-judge bench is not a permanent. It's an interim relief sort of thing for Donald Trump, and we'll have to wait for further and concrete order that comes in for Donald Trump administration and whether and what the future of tariffs would be.
But Rishabh, will the Supreme Court intervene as far as the call that has now been made by the White House, saying that hitting out at the judges for blatantly wrong decisions, and they are now asking for the direct intervention from the Supreme Court of the United States?
Well, that remains in future. The American judiciary is a very complex sort of system, and it depends on many aspects when it comes to the Supreme Court intervention, and especially Supreme Court's intervention in something which is related to judiciary. These judges are not appointed by one person or one committee. There is a whole robust process in the United States to get a judge appointed. Yes, many try and segregate them as Democrat and Republican judges, but it takes a whole lot of process to
well,
get
not for the first time as far as such kind of decisions and announcements by Donald Trump are being bypassed by the judges there, by the courts there. Not just one decision, we've also seen what has happened in the recent face-off that escalated between Donald Trump and the Harvard University. Please stay on with us.